Jai Hind everyone, myself Nupur Mittal. I am a faculty of electrical department in Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. The subject which I am taking is control system and the subject code is KEE 502. Today I am going to discuss the first topic of the unit 1, that is introduction to control system. Before I'll start the subject, I'll start the topic, I would like to introduce you, I would like to describe you the meaning of the subject, that is control system. So first we'll talk about the system. System is a combination of various physical components which are combined together to attain a certain objective. A very good example of a system is a classroom. In a classroom, you can see in a classroom with a combination of benches, tube lights, fans, blackboard, together combined, they form a system. Control means to regulate, to direct or command itself or some other system. Again, the example of classroom, if let us take an example of classroom. If a professor is delivering a lecture to the students in a classroom, will make a control system. The combination will make a control system. When a professor is delivering a lecture, then the aim of the professor is to direct or command the students so as to attain a certain objective. And the objective of that professor is basically to impart good knowledge to the students. So I hope the meaning of the control system is clear to you. Now, these are the basic contents of today's lecture. The first one, I will give the introduction of the control system. Then we'll move to the classification of the control system. Broadly, control system is classified into many ways, but the most important classification of control system will include the open loop control system and the closed loop control system. Then we'll discuss about the examples of the classification of control system, that is the example of open loop control system and the closed loop control system. And then we'll discuss about the difference between the open loop and closed loop control system. And at last we'll go in brief about the elements of the control system. What are the elements that we are using in a control system? Now the introduction. The control system, it is an integral part of our life and it plays a very important role. Practically, all the systems in our day-to-day life are mostly influenced by some sort of control system. See, control system is all around us. It is basically a separable part of the modern society. From simple bread toaster to a complex power plant is a control system. And some of the man-made control system are launching a satellite in orbit, regulating a power plant, tracking enemy on a radar are some of the examples of the man-made control system. So the concept of control system basically plays a very important role in space vehicles, in guided missiles, in satellites, etc. This control system is occur in nature also, where a human body is a great example of the complex control system, because we have many systems inside our body which occur in nature, which we have by nature, that is respiratory system, that is digestive system, perspiration system. All these systems are itself an example of the complex control system. Next, as I have discussed these 2 points already, next we'll come to the basic block diagram of the control system. A control system is having an input and an output. This input, it is an applied signal. It is an applied signal to the control system, or you can say an excitation which is applied to the control system so that we can achieve a desired objective, right? And this output, it is a response, or you can say actual signal that is being obtained from the control system. And control action is basically a quantity which is responsible for acting the system. So we can have a control system can have a number of inputs and a number of output. It is depending upon our requirement. The control system could be a CISO system or it could be a MIMO system. CISO system is a system in which there is a single input is applied to the system for getting a single output. And the MIMO system is when we are applying multiple output at the system to obtain multiple number of outputs. Next is the classification of control system. So broadly, control system can be classified as continuous time and discrete time control system, natural and man-made control system, time varying and time invariant control system, CISO and MIMO system. I have already discussed about this in the previous slide. And the last one, this is the most important one, is the open loop and closed loop control system. So this is the main topic. I'll describe all these one by one, and this is the main topic of the control system which will be available on the 5 units. Okay, we'll talk about these two topics, open loop and closed loop control system, in all the 5 units of the control system. So first one is the continuous time and discrete time control system. So continuous time systems are those systems in which the variables are continuous function of time, in which the variables of the system are continuous function of time. It is not dependent upon the input or output, whether they are function of time or not. Okay, for continuous time system, continuous time signals are applied. For let xt be some signal, as I have already told you that in case of continuous time system, continuous signals are applied to the system. So you can say this xt is a continuous signal which is applied to a system. You can see this is this signal is continuous in nature and it is a variable, it is depending upon the variable t. While a discrete time system is a system which is applied at some instant only, right? These discrete time systems are having discrete time signals which are applied at some instant, particular instant of time, right? So this is the example of discrete time control system. Now next, coming to the natural and man-made control system. The biological system inside the human body is a natural control system. For example, a perspiration system. In perspiration system, the secretion glands, the secretion suites maintain the temperature of the human body, which is natural in nature. And the another one is the man-made control system. Man-made control system, like the which are the made by the human beings. Like we are launching a satellite in the orbit. That system is basically a man-made system. And the combination of two natural and man-made control system can be called as the combinational control system. For example, a driver is driving a vehicle or a car, right? Then the car is a man-made control system, and the senses of the human, the driver, are natural in nature. So driver have to keep a track on the driving a car, whether it is going right or not. So this is a combinational control system. The next one is the time varying and the time invariant system. So the variables of the control system, of the systems which are varying with time, are called as the time varying system, and the variables which are not varying with time, with respect to time, are called as the time invariant system, right? The next one is the CISO system and the MIMO system. CISO system stands for single input and single output, and MIMO stands for multiple input and multiple output system. So the system which is having a single input applied and producing a single output is called as the CISO system, and the system which is in which multiple inputs are applied and produces a multiple number of outputs are called as the MIMO system. And the last one is the open loop and the closed loop system. So basically, open loop system is a system in which there is no feedback, right? And the closed loop system is a system which includes the feedback signal. Feedback basically is the property of a system which compare the part of a output with the reference input and generates an error signal. Okay, then now let us discuss this open loop control system and the closed loop control system in brief. So basically, depending upon the feedback path, the control system can be classified as the open loop control system or the closed loop control system. So in case of, this is the block diagram for the open loop control system. You can see in case of open loop control system, there is no feedback, and here the output is depending upon input, but the input is independent upon the output or the controlling action. So here you can see that the input is applied to the controller, which produces an actuating signal, and this actuating signal goes to the plant or called the process, which needs to be controlled. So the plant produces an output which is a controlled output, right? Now if we talk about the closed loop control system, in case of control system, the output is dependent upon input and input is somehow dependent upon the output, right? In both type of system, output is always dependent upon the input, but in case of closed loop system, input is also dependent upon output. You can see it is basically, this is the block diagram. You can see a part of output is feedback to the input, right? A signal from the output is feedback from here, and which is compared with the input through this error detector, and error signal is being generated here. This error signal will go to the controller, which will do the necessary action and correct the output and generates a actuating signal. Now this actuating signal will go to the plant or process to generate the desired output of the system, right? So this feedback signal is basically obtained from the feedback element by considering the output of the overall system as an input to this block. Now these are the examples of the open loop control system. The one is the bread toaster and one is the automatic washing machine. In case of bread toaster, the quality of the bread depends upon the heating of the toast, right? Which is dependent upon the time, right? So the machine will run as per the adjusted time, irrespective whether the bread is toasted or not, completely or not. And this is being observed by the user, which has nothing. This is observed by the user. The second one is the automatic washing machine. So this machine will also run according to the preset time, irrespective of whether the washing will be completed or not. So next one is the example of the closed loop control system. In case of closed loop control system, one of the example is automatic electric iron and another one is the servo voltage stabilizer. So as we know that the voltage stabilizer operates depending upon the output voltage of the system, right? And the heating elements are basically controlled by the output temperature of the iron. So here you can see at the timer, the desired input time and the electrical energy are being given at the input, right? The timer will heat the element inside the press, and pressing will be done on the heat will be goes to the clothes, and the output, which is the actual dryness, a part of this will be sensed by the sensor and given to the error, and given as an error by the sensor to the timer. This timer again will compare the desired time with the error, which is an input, and produces the necessary action, right? So this is the difference between the open loop and the closed loop control system. You can see in the open loop control system, the control action is independent of the desired output, right? That means and while in the closed loop system, the control action is dependent upon the desired output, right? In case of open loop system, feedback path is not present, while in case of closed loop control system, the feedback path is present, right? These are also called as the non-feedback control system, and these are called as the feedback control system. So these open loop control system are easy to design as they have less number of components as compared to closed loop control system. While the closed loop control system is difficult to design, though number of components are higher, also there is a procedure of there is a element called the feedback element, which is continuously giving the feedback to the for the comparison with the input signal. So because of the comparison, error is continuously generating, and sometimes to correct that error, the system will become unstable in nature. So it is very difficult to design the closed loop control system. So you can say from here, the open loop control system is more stable as compared to the closed loop system. So these are economical also, less number of components are used here, and these are costlier in nature, right? Sometimes these may be inaccurate, but these are the accurate systems, as we have these have tendency to correct the to achieve the desired output by producing an error signal, but they do not have any such privilege. Now, what are the elements that are being used in a control system? There are basically 4 elements that are being used in a control system. The one is the plant, then, or you can say process. Plant is also called as the process. Another one is the feedback, then controller, and the last one is the error detector. So this is the basic block diagram of the control system, where we have used the reference transducer. You can see that sometimes it is not necessary always that we have the input in the desired form. So sometimes it is required to change the input in the required form. So the transducer is being used here, so it will convert the input into the desired form. Like transducer will convert the electrical form into the mechanical form, or mechanical signal into the electrical signal. This is the basic function of transducer. So reference transducer is used here, which convert the input into the reference input according to our requirement. Then you can see the reference input is compared with the feedback signal coming from the output side, and it goes to this summation, which will produce the necessary error signal represented by ET. This error signal will go to the controller, which control the error signal and converted into and produces a actuating signal or a manipulated signal. This manipulated signal now goes to the plant or process, which needs to be controlled, and it produces the actual output or the controlled output. And a part of control output is again feedback through this feedback transducer to this. Okay. So you can see here, there are 2 paths in case of closed loop control system. One is the forward path and another one is the feedback path, right? Forward path is straight from input towards the output, and feedback path is from output towards the input. right? Now talking about the plant, talking about these elements one by one. The plant is the portion of the system which is to be controlled or regulated, right? It is basically a unit where actual processing is performed, and if we observe that last figure, the input of the plant is the controlled signal which is generated by the controller, right? A plant performs necessary action on the controlled system and it will produce the desired output. The next one is the feedback. Feedback is basically a controlled action in which output is sampled and a proportional signal is given to the input for automatic correction of any changes in the output, required output. So the output is given as feedback to the input for correction. That is, for information about output is given to the input for correcting the changes in output due to the disturbances. There could be internal disturbance or there could be external disturbances. So the feedback signal is feedback to the error detector, right? And there could be output feedback, either a positive feedback or a negative feedback. So here negative feedback is preferred in most of the cases of the control system as it results better stability and accuracy. So we'll talk about these feedback, negative feedback or positive feedback in the next lecture when we'll talk about the block diagram representation, right? The other disturbance signals are all rejected. Now third one is the error detector. That I have told that summation, it is represented by this signal, and summation which is comparing the reference input with the feedback signal and produces the error signal. This is basically an error detector. So the function of basically this error detector is to compare the input with the feedback signal, and it produces the error signal, which is the difference of the two inputs which are given to it, right? Which are given to this error detector. So the error signal is fed to the controller for the necessary action, controlling action, and this error signal is then used to correct the output if there is a deviation from the desired value, right? The last one is the controller. So the element of a system within itself or external to the system which control the plant is called as a controller. So the error signal will be a weak signal, so it has to be amplified or then to be modified for better control action. In most of the system, the controller amplifies the error signal and integrates or differentiate to generate a control signal, right? An amplifier is basically used to amplify the error signal and controller is used to modify the error signal.